Hi, I'm Kelly at Book and Paper Arts, and today I am going to start altering a new book. Book altering is the favorite thing that I do in my practice. Nothing comes close to it. But I don't get to do it as much as I would like because it's actually a luxury. Making an altered book from beginning to end takes several weeks and sometimes months. So I don't get to do it as often as I'd like. But today, I like. So in this video, I am going to talk about why I chose this book, why I think it's a good candidate for altering, and then I'm going to tear out some of the pages so it can chunk up and then glue other pages down to make segments and then for altering. I know I said tea bag bowls, and they are coming up in 4 days. So stay tuned. In the meantime, if you like altered books, vintage books and paper and ephemera, if you like journal arts, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and be sure and turn on the notifications. And you will have more of them in your life. Let's go alter a book. Today, I'm just going to chit-chat about what I'm doing as I prepare this book. That is because I have several very long and very thorough videos here on YouTube about book altering, about preparing pages and how to choose your books and to get started. So if you are curious about book altering, I seriously suggest that you check those out. The links are in the text box below this video. And if you do that, it will save you a lot of time and heartache. I know, I found out the hard way. Today, though, let's talk about why I like this book. It is an older book. It's vintage. I do not know the age. I can't find a colophon. Might have been there. It is on the 99 pence wall at my secondhand bookstore. It's a big wall. I go in every week and see what's there. I love that wall. And there it was. The cover is really fun, and so we're already up and running before we've done a thing. The spine is not in great shape. Or actually, the spine's okay, but the back cover of the spine. Normally, this would be something I would just reject this book right from the get-go. I wouldn't even bother. But it's actually, the glue is pretty firm. It's holding together. And I have a feeling it's going to be okay. If, as the book chunks up, it puts strain here, then I can always reinforce this with some cloth or other papers. And we may very well get to that. The other reasons that I like this book, it's a good size. You can see it's kind of small. And that means that I'm more likely to actually, it's not too thick. And this means I'm more likely to actually finish it rather than just start it and have a third of the book never done. Believe me, I know that happens too. I like the weight of the paper. It's not too thin. Really thin, onion skinny paper will want to buckle when you glue it. This is a little bit more formidable, but not too much. And finally, this is a little hard to explain, but I like the way that when I open this book in different sections, it wants to lie flat. Sometimes when you look at a book and you're considering it for altering, the pages want to curve up like this or buckle. And this one's giving me a really clean gutter, which means that when the pages are glued down, I'm going to have a nice level substrate canvas rather than, an old curvy one. So I'm thinking that even though this book's got some dings, it's going to be a very good candidate. You can never, ever be sure. But let's go. Now to tear out some of the pages. You do this for a few reasons. One is because as you start adding pockets and glued elements, this book is going to chunk right up. And if you don't remove some of the pages, it's going to put too much stress on the binding and it's going to break. Let's see. How many pages you remove depends on how many sections you want your book to have. That's very much a matter of style and trial and error. I pretty much like my books to have 5 sections, perhaps 7 if you add the front papers and end papers, but I'm guesstimating around 5. I'll know more when I start gluing. It's very much a matter of personal taste. One thing about altered books is you're going to learn by making your own. And the best way to do that is to make a bunch of altered books. You're going to learn by doing things right, and you're most certainly going to learn by doing things wrong. And then after you do a few of them, you'll know what you like in your book, and that will help you in preparing it. Normally, you tear out pages on this where the signature is. And that's where the section of the book is sewn into the book, and you'll be able to see that because that's where the threads are. And I've just gone through and I've found the center of the signatures throughout the book. And that's where I'm going to start tearing out a page. I very much advise doing it slowly. So I take out 1 page per signature, have a look at the book, and then if it still needs to be thinned out, I can take out a 2nd page in each signature. But I think 1 at a time. Okay, so here's the next signature. Take that out. And save these papers. You can use them for found text, for collage, and other stuff. To decide where my sections are going to be, as I glue papers together, I've actually gone through the book a couple of times, trying to figure out where I think the papers, how many pages would make an apt section, meaning, okay, these are 3 pages. If I glue these together for a section, that's lying pretty flat. This would be fine, it's lying flat, but this paper doesn't want to come over and meet that paper. So I actually think this is going to look cleaner when I glue it. Sometimes that happens, that the pages don't pull all the way over, and that's fine. You don't have to worry about it, but since I'm just starting, I'm going to go ahead and pick the pages that are lying together more flush as the book opens. So there's 3 pages. 1, 2, 3. The signature would be clean, but let's do 4, because that's also lying flat. Might need a little reinforcing when we get there. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we're already reinforcing 1 section. I think 2 is pushing it. So I'm going to go ahead and let this one open after 3 pages. So that's going to be that section. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's see. You know what? We're going to make this one 5 because, again, that's not pulling over as much as I'd like. That's a little exposed. This is way cleaner. So some of these sections have 3 pages. Some of them have 5. Once you start gluing in your elements, it'll be fine. 1, 2, 3. Now this is buckling a little bit. It's not lying really flat. So let's pull over to 4. 4 pages, and then that leaves 4. And so what I have now is section 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's going to be 7 sections, 7 substrates, 7 canvases. That's plenty in a thin book. Let's start gluing. I forgot to say that I did go back into each signature and remove a second page. So in the end, I took 2 pages out of each signature, so that I got this quite thin, lots of space there to chunk up. To glue the papers, you're going to need some glue. My adhesive of choice is acrylic gel medium. You can use a PVA craft glue, just a white craft glue. Weirdly, this does not have a lot of slip, and slip is good when you're gluing your pages into sections because it makes them lie more flat and less likely to buckle. So if I was going to use a white craft glue, I would probably put some into a cup or a dish and add a little bit of water, maybe a quarter, 3 parts glue to 1 part water-ish. Stir that all up, and then you're going to have a glue that's going to be a lot more cooperative. I'm going to use my acrylic gel medium. You're also going to need a truckload of wax paper or greaseproof paper, which is what we call it here in the UK. It's basically a parchment paper that you use for baking. Or you could use deli paper, but you need something to keep your pages excuse me, from sticking together. You start here, and believe me, they will stick together if you give them half a chance. Okay, the first thing I can see is that this old paper is a little bit thirsty. It's absorbing this glue way too much because it's absorbing the liquid that's in the gel, the medium. So I'm going to add a little bit of water onto my brush so that we're giving the pages a little extra drink of water there. So it's 1 page. I'm going to pull that over gently. Flatten it out. Be gentle here because, again, some of these pages, if you pull too tight, you're going to start pulling that wet paper away from the spine, and that will end in tears. Okay, so that's... Okay, now I'm just going to go ahead and before I add the glue, I'm going to add a super light coat of water. Just painting very light coat of water. Now when I go in with my medium, I can use less of it. If I use less of it to do the job, I'm going to have less buckling and bulk. Pull that over. Move the paper because it will glue. Now, gently flatten that out. Now you can see why this takes so long to make an altered book, because I'm going to stop right here, fold my greaseproof paper around that one section, and then put the whole book under some weights. If you've got a book press, a stack of dictionaries or encyclopedias, some cast iron, you need to let that one section set and dry a bit. I'm going to let it dry for about an hour. You can, I get asked this all the time, can you go ahead and do more sections than one? You can. I could go ahead and do another section and then another and let 2 or 3 sections dry. But in my long experience, I have found out that if you do that, you're going to have all those wet spine parts pulling against each other. And sometimes I've done that and I've just had to get rid of the whole book. Couldn't be saved. So in my experience, it's better do one section at a time. While this is drying, move on to something else, then come back and do another section. Trust me. It has been drying under some heavy books for about an hour. It's still damp, but it's dry enough that we can proceed without making the book vulnerable as we go. So that's one section. Make sure you put some grease-proof paper down there. And for this section, I'm going to do 4 pages altogether. And I've got that marked off so I don't forget. Let's see. I've given it a light wash of water. Now I'm going to glue those down. So there's my first section, second section, and again, I'm going to stop between sections. Make sure I've got plenty of paper there to protect it so it doesn't glue itself to itself. And I'm going to put that again under some heavy weights and let the second section. That is all of my segments glued together. So now I have these canvases, this substrate here, and separating them are these pages, which are now pretty much like boards. So they're going to stand up to a lot more decorating. You can see it is lying flat, pretty much. It's going to need a little help, but they often do. And you can also see why I do like a thin book, because now I have a few really good pieces that I can work on and into, but it's not overwhelming. Before I move on to decorating these pages in some future videos, I want to go through and see if the book needs any shoring up. And for instance, here you can see that the gutter here in between the pages is a little iffy. But something like that I prefer to deal with when I get ready to decorate the page. And then I can see about reinforcing that. This, however, which is the back cover, is looking a lot more frail. And again, I could wait until I work on this layout, but I'm afraid that as I'm working in this book, as it's chunking up and I'm adding glue and paint and liquid pieces, that could have a knock-on effect, and this could break long before I get to this. So I'm going to go ahead and repair it before I start decorating the pages. To repair something like this, you want a small piece of paper that's going to go through the middle. Actually, it doesn't have to be small. This is a thin piece of paper. It's a vintage receipt. And I could very well, and I do very often, use something like this as the beginning of a page. So if I was to glue this across here, that would reinforce the gutter here that's frail, and also be a beautiful beginning to a collage. But I'm not there yet, and I don't want to make this commitment. So in the meantime, I'm just going to mend it. You can use tissue paper. That would be a fine choice. You can use different things. Excuse me. I keep a sack of offcuts of mulberry paper. And when I make something with mulberry paper, and then I keep the script scraps. Mulberry paper is surprisingly strong, and this is a neutral color. So I could put that down for mending that. And that's going to keep that nice and strong and healthy while I work on the book. But today I'm going to show how to mend this using a tea bag. These are surprisingly formidable and robust, and of course it looks pretty cool too. So let's put that down. Just going to add my glue here, my gel medium. You don't need a whole lot because this paper is so thin. Now, let's see. I'm going to put this over the seam. And what I'm going to do is move it around before I get it really down there. I'm going to flatten it out on this side and then open the book up and feed this tea bag in there just a little bit. I do not want to pull it perfectly tight over the two sides. If you do that, then after it's dry and you open the book, it's just going to split all over again. Taking the tea bag with it. So now there's some give. I'm going to add this little piece down here and we'll be good to go. Now this is going to be more strong, more reliable, and as I start decorating these pages, I feel like it's going to be a lot safer. I am going to be decorating these pages, some of them as process videos here on YouTube, so stay tuned for that. If you have any questions or any feedback, please let me know in the comments below. I love to compare notes. And don't forget to check out the text box below this video if you'd like to find links to the longer, more in-depth videos on how to prepare your books for altering. Speaking of tea bags, join me in a few days because I have that tutorial on how to make these bowls out of tea bags. I can't promise that they are really practical, but boy, are they cute. So join me for that. In the meantime, happy making.